My name is Lloyd Thomas. I grew up at Black Bear Island and then Matson Island. We moved to Matson Island so our family could go to school. And my father was a lighthouse keeper at Black Bear Island and a fisherman. I trapped as a young person. I started trapping, I was probably 10 years old. I started trapping squirrels. I would snare rabbits, clean them, and then sell them to the teachers and the preacher, like that. 25 cents per skinned and cleaned rabbit. We used trapping for income and also for food.
I'm Curtis Rexseedler. I was born and raised out here on a farm in Jackfish Lake. I grew up not in the settling days, but we weren't too modernized to begin with anyway. Living on a farm, we had cattle and pigs and chickens every year, and that was a large part of your staples for the year. And your always a huge garden, and potatoes being the main staple. Our potato bin in the basement was 8 feet long by 4 feet wide, and it was 3/4 full or better by fall time. And we're always probably considered poor, but we ate pretty good for poor people, I tell you. Between butchering a cow and a hog in the fall and 100 chickens and then whatever wild meat you could get, your deer and rabbits and what else. So yeah, I wouldn't call it a bad life. I've always enjoyed it. I've always enjoyed being in the outdoors. My first experience trapping would probably be trapping rabbits. My dad taught me how to make snares for rabbits and set traps for squirrels and set some snares for coyotes and stuff like that. It was part of an income for a lot of the settlers in the area. I say there's a season for everything. You know, money-wise, a lot of the people that were homesteading, you wouldn't consider them rich, but they ate well, and that was one of their sources of income for everybody, was taking some fur in the winter and adding that to your income for the year. You know, trap line is basically an area that you run and set your traps, and yes, your first step in doing that is finding out what's out there. And as you're traveling around, you see what tracks are there, and that for me is one of the nicest parts of it, is just getting out and exploring. And then you have to start setting for them. For some animals you bait, a lot of them you bait for, and others you just set along the trails where you know they're going to go. And after a lot of trial and error, sooner or later you get better at it. Back in the earliest days when people would snare, they'd use whatever wire they could get. They would use a double loop system, which has changed a lot over the years to much more efficient designs, where some smart people figured out how to make these locks that once they tighten up, they will not loosen up unless you know how to loosen it up. But there's a good example of probably one of the earliest designs, which is so simple and yet it's so effective. And another good, again, some smart feller figured out that if you drill 2 holes in it, run your cable through, tie it in the proper way. This way it slides like nothing, so the animal will get caught and will not come loose unless, again, you know how to use it. And this is probably the most current, would be this cam lock system, and it was very effective. Again, it slides down almost effortlessly, but when they exert pressure on it, it locks up and doesn't come loose. But it's all regulated to be as humane as possible and to minimize any kind of stress to the animals, which is a good thing, you know. The trapping, the snaring the rabbits always was just putting food on the table, and I know of one family in particular that used to eat a lot of muskrat, and their mother would tell them it was marsh rabbit. So I'd known a few people in my day that still ate beaver, and actually the tail sawyer on my father's mill, that would be the only time I've ever tried it. He used to pickle beaver, and it wasn't bad. Probably in those days as well. When you're keeping the predators in check, there's also more rabbits and stuff for their table, right? So it served two purposes, along with adding to your family income, which come from everywhere, you know. Everything you could do to make a buck or better your life, you did.